A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, Constitutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. If you're looking behind the scenes video, yes, the new background with the city of Detroit in there. I dropped politics, but we still get into them. And welcoming me today. Joining me today is Jose Nino. No, not like the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Jose Nino, nor like La Nina, more like El Nino. Jose Nino, right? Welcome to the show, Jose.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and for the colorful introduction.
Well, I like to joke around with people with their names because I'm touchy about name. My last name looks French, like Leonard. It's not. It's actually derived from Polish. It was Leonard
Interesting.
Leonard Owaszkiewicz or whatever at some point. It's Leonard without an O. And I have to go by Joseph M. Leonard because there is a Joseph Leonard who's also a Christian author out of South Carolina. So I'm touchy about names. I get it. And I like joking about it because, humor helps put things in people's heads.
It's funny you mentioned that because technically in Spanish my name would be Nino because of the tilde, the accent mark on the second N. But in government documents in the US, it's technically Nino. But I have noticed I have a doppelganger that's in a somewhat tangential field, in terms of international relations. I've seen it when I go on LinkedIn, but they don't really look like me, so there's not going to be any confusion there.
Maybe you need to start doing like I do, put the middle initial in.
Yeah.
I like to joke. In fact, I've got my 6th international book will be out now by the time the show airs, The Book of Kennedy, Project Carpe Diem. And I joke in the book in there that, I'm Joseph M. Leonard. He is Joseph Leonard. I am not he is not me. Those aren't pseudonyms for each other, right? I am not he is not me, and neither of us will be confused for Shakespeare. At any rate, welcome to the show. Before we get into, I have circled on my notes published author and items cited by members of Congress, but let's put the garbage truck in reverse, beep, 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 and get into the proverbial, Christian show, pun intended, proverbial usual first question. Who are you? Right? Where were you born? Where were you raised? And all that nitty-gritty stuff.
So, yes, I am a freelance writer and I write for multiple websites on political issues and that range from immigration to foreign policy. I'm also the deputy editor of Headline USA. That's generally my main gig. But I was born in actually Venezuela, but I grew up in North Texas, specifically the Dallas area. I've lived all over the United States. I'm actually currently in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've also lived abroad
Oh,
too.
yeah. Take a trip to South Carolina and say hello to Joseph Leonard to me, because he don't ever return my emails or my attempts to outreach. As I think we've got similar names. We should connect and at least have a conversation, but he never gets back to me. At any rate, I'm sorry.
Perhaps I could link you up with him.
Yeah, you could be my ambassador, right?
Yes. Yeah, your liaison.
Anyway, I interrupted you. You're currently in North Carolina. Where else have you been?
Well, I've lived abroad as well. Like I've lived some time in Colombia, Chile. Yeah. I'm pretty well traveled, but now I'm very much settled in though in the United States.
Okay, so let's get into, I guess, first the published author part, because we have that in common, of course. What are some of your books? Do you have any to hold up for behind the scenes video there?
No, they're actually two ebooks. One is How Socialism Destroyed Venezuela, and the other
Amen to that, brother. Amen.
is The 10 Myths of Gun Control.
Oh, I don't even need to write those down. I know I need to go get those immediately after this. There are ebooks on Amazon Kindle, then I take it.
Yeah, well, they're mostly on PDFs. You can acquire them from Gumroad, the platform Gumroad. I can send you a link to that as well.
Yeah, please do, and then that way I can go ahead and vocalize the link, and then I'll also put it on the scroll at the bottom and try to remember to put it in the show notes. What is it?
It's if you go to gumroad.com, Gum road.com, you can type in How Socialism Destroyed Venezuela or the 10 Myths of Gun Control, and you'll find it with Jose Nino. I can also let me find the exact links as well, because I don't have that off the top right now.
Right. How Socialism Destroyed Venezuela. Yeah, well, I go on and on and on this show. Why I felt called. So many Matthew 23 Christians seem to think Jesus was a socialist. You're not reading your Bible right. The Bible and Jesus is about free will, right? Charity. We are to want to be our brother's keeper, not forced through worldly communism, which is a bastardization of biblical community at the point of the barrel of a gun, to have money and whatnot stolen from us to give to others, because the Bible also makes the distinction between the unwilling and the unable. Like I myself am on disability right now. I prefer to have my six-figure IT salary, but instead I'm barely able to keep the roof over the head, the lights on, and the show going on disability income, right? There's a distinction. I have no obligation whatsoever under biblical community to those who are unwilling to bother to want to do anything for themselves. I have obligation to others who are unable for whatever reason. Yes?
Yeah, I'm not the most well versed on Christianity, but I do see a good deal of leftists using Christian appeals, Christian appeals to support their agenda, and it's very disingenuous. I mean, socialism and totalitarian communism can just be refuted by pointing out basic economic facts that completely seizing the means of production of the economy and abolishing private property is just going to lead to unmitigated disaster and just turn your country into an economic basket case. at best, or at worst, like a complete totalitarian police state
Yeah.
where you live in economic misery and face constant repression.
Yeah. I pretty much can tell how you're going to react to who I call Madman Dummy, right? The idiot running for New York mayor right now, Mad Dummy or whatever his name. I call him, like I say, Madman Dummy, wanting to seize control, take over, and have government run grocery stores. Yeah, that'll work just as well as the DMV does. And what will be next, because these commies never end there in seizing control and turning over to government bureaucrats, aka their friends, their family, their donors, and it never works. Next will be what? South African style, let's seize the farms so that we raise the cattle and grow the crops to sell in the store. And of course, then we've got to seize the middleman distributors there too. And it all goes to HELL. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously like politicians, really demagogic politicians, get their start more often than not at the local level, and they want to kind of create this microcosm of an economy of this really kind of race-based communism. Because I haven't really researched Mondami that much, but I've noticed that he has said, like, talked about redistributing like the assets and properties of like white people in New York City. And this is just you mentioned South Africa. That just sounds
just like there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like a really dumb policy. I mean, New York City has a lot of corrupt politics. I mean, that's not even like up for debate. But what he's proposing, I just don't see as like the solution. Like, there's a lot of things you could say about like corporate policies in the U.S., but just like abolishing private property is a lot like the last thing you should do to like address corporate inequities and all that.
Yeah. Some people refuse. This is the reason why they don't want history taught in school, because some refuse to learn from it, and they want to ensure for their own power and control. The issue is never the issue with the leftists. All at issue is their power, their control, more for them, less for the average person. But they failed to learn from the Bradford colony and the Mayflower Commie Compact. It was a communist compact long before Marx ever thought he was having an original idea, and they almost all starved to death. So Bradford pivoted, and Squanto came along also. That was divine intervention. An Indian who spoke good English, proper English, probably better English than a lot of the settlers. Hey, I'm here. Can I help? And yeah, we're all starving. Well, that's because it was a commonwealth. He instituted private property ownership, individual, personal free will rights over collectivist rights, and the rest, they say, is history. Our founders knew that, and that's exactly why we aren't a communist nation, nor are we a mobocracy. We are a constitutionally limited representative republic. Yes?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.
Yes, this is something that's generally ignored, that the U.S. is a system that is supposedly designed to prevent like mob rule, especially at the federal level. At the state level, you can have like your little referendas and local ballot initiatives, but there's a clearly like delineated separation of powers and also Republican features of government that are designed to check like the excesses of impassioned mobs, because you'll get situations like the French Revolution, which was a saturnalia of violence and just radicalism that eventually had to be put down by Napoleon. But like, yeah, like that's something that's generally not understood because of the lack of like civics education in the US, where people like to talk about banal terms like democracy, which have become almost meaningless now. And instead, what they're really promoting is just like a system of stealing from so-called like oppressor groups like white people and redistributing it to victim so-called victim groups, and it's just completely off base. You have to go back to first principles if you want to solve problems.
Yes, I'm with you wholeheartedly there. Yeah, the divide and conquer. And like Barnum used to say, a sucker born every minute, right? Now, if Barnum were alive in the computer age, it'd be a sucker born every nanosecond. And that's what the left plays on, the mobocracy theme of playing on useful idiots. They can lie, and always lie to pass idiotic referendums. And like I've got an article on beforeitsnews.com about today's fascia federalists versus the original Federalists. Now, even Jefferson, as a Federalist, and others immediately started to undermine the Constitution, the compromise that was the Constitution, because the Articles of Confederation didn't go far enough, but the states joined freely the Union. The Union did not create the states. And fascist federalists of today want ever more growing federalist tyrannical power and destruction of the states' rights. You're seeing that. You know that. You speak out against that.
Yes, I mean, I think that the ultimate like sovereignty is guaranteed like in the Constitution, that the powers like not delegated to the federal government are delegated to states, and then like states can then devolve that power to like local bodies and eventually to individual, because it's supposed to be protecting like property rights and the freedom of association.
Yeah. And yet at the same time, we have an illegal usurpation, overreach of powers, Jimmy Carter creating to pay back the teachers union to help get him elected, the Department of Education, which again is that fascia federalism, dictating to the states how, and I say it's the new color R's. They're peddling radicalism, raunch, and racism that divide and conquer through CRT versus arithmetic, reading, writing, arithmetic, history. They're peddling softcore porn in the schools rather than To Kill a Mockingbird, to teach about equality and individual rights. The Constitution is silent. It is a state right for control of education. You would agree with me on that, yes?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, education really should not be administered by the federal government. And yeah, the Constitution is pretty clear. That's a function that's devolved to the states. States can craft whatever policies they see fit on that matter.
And it is amazing. It's a clear matter of history. The idiotic communist line, I call the left the commie fasci sociis. This isn't the 1930s. The National Socialist Deutschland Arbeiter Party socialists, later known as fascists, like El Duce in Italy fascists and Franco fascists in Spain, were fighting Moscow-backed communists at the time. Today, they're all the same. They're only minor variations on the same theme. And I'm betting you agree with me on that.
Yeah, today we are facing definitely unique challenges from like the woke cultural left that is
Cultural Marxism, yep.
yeah,
in action.
that is just like, obsessed with promoting demographic replacement via mass migration, promoting sexual degeneracy, and also engaging in this race-based form of Marxism where they're obsessed with trying to, like as I mentioned before, promote agendas that involve the redistribution of resources based on racial and even gender lines on so-called to the benefit of so-called victim groups. There's like definitely unique challenges to this epoch, but there are similarities in the type of radical spirit of these people.
Yeah, well, time is flying already. So let me move to the issue of views have been cited by members of Congress. Now, I used to have a friend, he got himself in trouble, a re-election scandal where he paid for, petition signatures, and who he bought them from had a lot of fake fraud names on there, so he ended up having to drop out of Congress rather than get reelected. Thaddeus McCotter here in Michigan. And back when, you'll recall, and they still try, the left tries to call the GOP the party of no, N-O, as in we don't stand for anything. We're just always against everything. Well, I created the talking point, and through Thaddeus McCotter for a while, it got adopted in Congress on the right. We are the party of KNOW. We say NO to your leftist idiocy because it is unconstitutional, and we KNOW better. We're for things that are constitutional. We're not going to go with your leftist agenda. So what kind of talking points indeed had permeated the right side of Congress out of your materials?
Yes, so I do agree that it's good to have like a proactive agenda in against the left and just the political establishment, because I think the political establishment as well is a big threat
Oh,
to.
I'm glad you said that, because I need to make clear here. I don't wear the red Republican hat. Yeah, I consider myself a Republican, a real one. I speak out every bit as much against rhinos and CINOs, conservatives in name only, who are often siding with leftists destroying our republic, too. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Yeah. You strike me as the same.
Yes, and this goes into the point. I'm a firm believer of like a proactive agenda where I want to roll back a lot of the excesses that we've seen over the last century of the government growing and bring more power back to the states and ultimately the people, local government, and have stuff like much less closer to constituencies and not concentrated in DC, because concentrated power is the enemy of liberty and economic stability in this country. So it's best that we work to have a proactive agenda where we get locally engaged and stop corruption, and also provide an alternative framework where we focus on localism and reactivating our communities.
I'm with you 100%. Are you familiar with the 1800s Norton v. Shelby Township case?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I highly recommend you and everybody else go back in the CTP archives and listen to the show on Norton v. Shelby. The Supreme Court ruled long ago, and the case has been ignored on purpose by many, of course, who want a deep state, Sino, Rhino, leftists, liberal, progressives, commie, fascist, socialists, deep state establishment had control of everything that ruled. Indeed, there has been government usurpation and exerting unauthorized power, and that case is there to help roll some of it back. And only recently, unfortunately, has that case seemingly been rediscovered and starting to be used in court case arguments as we have the precedent, we have the Constitution, the number one overriding precedent, and then we have Norton v. Shelby, which the court, before Chief Justice Rob Turds, as I call him, Chief Just Ass, he's not a constitutionalist, he's a political hack a lot of times, moderating the court and trying to keep limited scope rulings. But Norton v. Shelby blatantly came out and said all of this unconstitutionality is indeed unconstitutional, has no valid authority, and must be rolled back.
Yes, yes. I'd even say that the courts themselves, especially the Supreme Court, especially when it's under liberal progressive control, has accumulated too much power. And this is part of my theme where I think that we need to really empower state governments and local governments now, and obviously downsize the federal government, because this is going away from like the foundational principles of the country.
Absolutely, positively agree 100% there. And as I said, wow, time's floating by. I try not to have shows that are very long. I call it today's Twitter attention span. Everybody, can't see beyond the nose on their face. Everybody wants, give me the short, condensed version. So let's start to wrap things up. Do you yourself, other than the gumroad.com, where they can find those PDF books, do you yourself personally have a website of your own or anything like that?
Yes. So I'm active on social media. First up on X/Twitter at Jose Al Nino, ALNINO. And then you can find me on Substack, where I'm mostly active publishing articles. And that Substack is called Jose Nino Unfiltered, and that's josbcf.substack.com. My podcast, El Nino Speaks, is there as well. And that is also on iTunes, Spotify, and it's also on YouTube as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Jose Al Nino, not El Nino, like the weather phenomenon. So is Al your middle name?
No, well, partially, yes. Technically, yes, because it's Alberto. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and hence the JOSEALNINO on social media. Okay, yeah. You better start using the A in there to distinguish yourself from that imposter that
the namesake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming on. Take care. God bless. Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.